Hey folks, Agent Tremper here with you, and we're up in the Carey Sugar Bush, the legendary sugar bush of George Carey, who was an original maple syrup and sugar pioneer back from 1900 to about 30 or so. And we're here with my friend Chris Chabla,
Hey, how are
head sugar maker for Carey in Maine. And we wanted to shoot a little shot. We had an open house this weekend, and we had a lot of questions. And we realized that although we've grown up making sugar, it's really kind of an art, and lots of folks don't understand it. So we're putting together a little series for Carey in Maine and our friend Stevie Van Zant's Wicked Cool Wellness to help bring you along in the process. So Chris, a couple of weeks ago, we had mud. And for those of you who don't know, Vermont has a fifth season.
Mud season?
Mud season.
Yeah.
And we were wondering, there was no snow in the sugar bush at all. And we were actually wondering how long the season was going to last. Now, fortunately, a week or so, wasn't it last a week ago, we got 15 inches of snow.
Oh, yeah.
And the temperature now, the forecast is really looking good.
Yeah.
And so walk us through a little bit. What are we looking for in temperature? And what exactly happens with the trees that gives us the sap that we then create?
And the syrup. Yeah, Chip. So we're looking for freezing temperatures at night and thaws in the day. Okay. So it'll depend from a hard freeze or a soft freeze, anywhere from below 30 to 20 degrees.
Okay.
And anything above 38, 40 degrees in the day will make a pressure change in the tree. The sap will freeze and thaw, and it'll shoot up the tree and come back down. And that's where we're catching it in its journey. So we're tapped into all of these trees on vacuum, guiding that sap down. So it's coming in about 2% right now. I'd like to say we're in the middle of our season.
2% what?
2% sugar.
It's 2% sugar.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's actually the tree's food, isn't it? Is it like table sugar, or is it tree sugar?
Tree sugar. It's a special sugar.
Yeah.
It's a tree sugar, you would say. And yeah, it's feeding the trees, getting ready for the season, and we're catching it in this time period. We know the season will end when the sugar content starts to go down and the tree produces more carbohydrates for budding than sugar for growth.
Okay, so that's where they get that term, buddy sap.
Yes, buddy sap and buddy syrup.
Okay. And so, I mean, when does it turn buddy? Right? Is it really when you start to lose your cold nights, or could it happen before then?
It depends. Every season is different, but generally when we get to the tail end of spring and we lose the thaws, the freezing at night, and those high temperatures, it can take a week of high temperatures, can set the trees budding, even if it's cold later in the season or it seems early. You know, high temperatures can really change things quickly.
So that's really the tree's physiology is changing, and now it wants food to create buds
and leaves and
okay.
Yeah.
So once the syrup, the sap turns buddy, if we then dump into another cold snap, are we done? Once they start to bud, that's it?
Generally so, yeah. You can't really reverse that process, and it depends how big your sugar bush is. You know, parts at higher elevation aren't budded, and parts at lower elevation may be, and maybe you can close off those taps and run the higher stuff.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So would that also affect, say, the aspect of if you're on a northern slope where the sun isn't shining as opposed to a southern slope? So you'll get different portions of the sugar bush turning buddy at different times of the season.
Yep. It's all about microclimates.
Microclimates, good. So when you lay out the pipelines, and we will have other segments where we're showing you the pipeline, it's an amazing, intricate system.
Yeah.
When you lay out the pipelines, do you actually set up valving so that you can isolate sections of the sugar bush?
So each 1 inch main line we have, we can isolate. So regardless of height or any difference there, we can shut off different sections of the
Yeah.
sugar bush, just how it's made up to be. So
Yeah.
you can isolate. If you notice these are budding over here, usually it'll happen all at once. But in our sugar bush, it's pretty even height right now. So.
Okay. Yep.
But
Yep.
you can isolate your problems. You can find your issues in your tubing by closing off your valves.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So you keep track of the sugar content of the sap
Yep.
very closely,
Yeah.
and that gives you an idea of when the budding is going to happen.
Yep. And even tasting the sap and smelling the sap, all your senses will clue you in on when the season is over, and the syrup just isn't what you want it to be.
That's
Yeah.
why you're the sugaring master and in charge, and I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, so we did have an open house this weekend, as I mentioned,
Yep.
and we got a lot of questions. We will be going through the different phases of video segments for you of the process. But one of the questions was, the sap comes in at 2%
Roughly.
sugar. And people have always asked, well, gee, how much sap does it take to make a gallon of syrup? So at that 2% rate,
We're looking at 43 gallons of 2% sugar to make a gallon of syrup at 66.9% bricks, which is Vermont's standard for sugar,
Yeah.
for maple syrup.
okay. And so that's a lot of water to
It
boil
is.
off.
Yeah, quite a bit.
A lot of bit of fuel to burn.
Yep.
And you've mentioned a machine called an RO.
Yes.
What exactly is an RO?
RO is reverse osmosis. It's a very, very important machine to our operation, and it takes our raw sap and uses pressure and filters to separate the impurities, which in our case, the sugars and the minerals, from pure water, pure H2O, which we call permeate. So this, like I said, machine is a backbone of our operation and our efficiency. So today, we started this morning with about 7,500 gallons of 2% sugar, 2%, sorry, excuse me, sap. I started the RO, and it's concentrating that sap, again, through pressure and filtration, to about 18% sugar.
Okay.
And we have that above our evaporator here, and we will use gravity to feed the evaporator that 18%. And it takes around 4.8 gallons of that 18%
Wow.
to make 1 gallon.
So almost 10 times the efficiency.
Yes,
A little
yes,
less, but
yeah.
wow. Yeah. Now, does RO affect the flavor at all? I can hear the purists out there saying, oh, if you don't evaporate it all, it's going to mess with the flavor.
Right.
Does RO really change the flavor at all?
There's been a lot of studies out there, and it definitely depends what each consumer can taste. But generally, it doesn't change the flavor until you start getting really high percentage concentrate.
Yeah.
20%. They can even make 30, 35%. But you find a balance between efficiency and flavor. And we like where we are. 18% is a good number to be at.
Now, one of the things that I've noticed that we do here at Cary in Maine that is way different from when I grew up in the 60s and early 70s making syrup on the family farm. You guys test with a hygrometer
Yep.
the specific gravity of the syrup. And I notice you test it a lot. What's the purpose of that?
So we just really want consistency in our operation. If your bricks sugar content is below a certain number, it can spoil. And if it's too high, it will crystallize in the barrel. And they essentially say you're giving away your syrup.
Right.
But we try to be right on the money. It's where syrup is supposed to be and where we find it to be perfect. And
Yeah.
it takes a lot of testing. Things will change as the RO is making different concentrate levels. Things will change in the atmosphere. So we're always testing. The machine will get dirty and less efficient. So we're always checking on that.
So you're almost like a chemist, and there's really an
Just
art
a little
form
bit, yeah.
To making exceptional syrup. Now, in the background we have different amber colors of syrup. What changes the actual color? Now, is that a function of the sap coming out of the tree? Is it a function of how long you cook the syrup? What are the things that go into the different grades of syrup?
And it can be a lot of different things, Chip. It can be things in the environment, microbes in the sap, and time and temperature, and the effects of those. But also how you run your machine, you know, how you cook. You can overcook the syrup and darken it. You could start with very light syrup. Your sugar bush is sanitized. All your tanks are very clean. The sap hasn't sat long. It's very fresh. You could have very light syrup and then make a mistake on the evaporator where that light syrup turns dark. But so it could be user error. It can be the microbes in the trees. A lot of different factors. And then sometimes you can't narrow it down to something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, it really is an art form. I know that we've got how many gallons of sap we're going to cook today?
We started with 7,500, so
And is it still running?
it's still running today.
Okay.
So maybe
Okay.
8,000, maybe a bit more.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's just Chris and I today in the sugar bush.
Yeah.
We did want to bring you along and answer some of the questions. There will certainly be more segments about this, and we're excited to bring it to you. So, Agent Tremper here. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon. Let's go cook some syrup.
Yes, sir.